Veterans Voices presented by Northwell, proudly raising health for our military service members.
They put country before self.
We identified as soldiers. Now it's that identity.
And left their families to fight for our freedom.
She felt it was the right thing to do for her country.
Sometimes at unimaginable cost.
My anger was out of control.
I felt like I had some anxiety, some PTSD condition.
On this Veterans Day, we celebrate their sacrifices.
And an improvised explosive device hit the side of my vehicle.
Their bravery.
By shooting down 7 enemy aircraft when he only needed to shoot down 5 to become an ace.
And we uplift their voices.
Good evening, I'm John Muller, and thank you for joining us for this PIX-11 special, Veterans Voices. Tonight, we are honoring the heroes who have served our country and the people who are making a difference in their lives. We begin with a New York organization that is bringing a sense of closure to veterans who struggle with a sense of meaning and belonging. Kieran Dillon reports.
Bill Vallely was just 20 years old and looking for a challenge when he decided to join the United States Marine Corps in 1999. He served until 2005, completing several tours in Iraq. When he returned home, he struggled.
I felt like I had some anxiety, some PTSD condition.
Vallely started working in the auto body and collision industry. It wasn't until 2019, when the father of 3 ran into an old tourmate, Dre Popov, that he realized he needed support.
At the time, I felt that it was time, that I needed to a beacon and help.
Turns out Popov had faced similar challenges when he returned from his own time in the Marines. That's why in 2011, he started the Astoria-based nonprofit, Veterans Rebuilding Life.
And at the time, I didn't even know there was options for me. And I just said to Dre, I'm like, you know, and he yelled at me, he says, you served, these are your benefits, you need to seek them. And I did, with his help and his staff.
Vallely is an example of the hundreds of people Veterans Rebuilding Life has aided and provided service to over the years. The group helps with housing, training, education, and even counseling. The organization is made up of volunteer veterans, the majority of which the group has previously helped.
Once we provided them that assistance, their gratitude made them ask us, like, how can I repay this? And we just told them, you can help the next vet that comes through the door.
Popov, who was the executive director of the organization, served in the Marines from 2003 to 2010, completing tours in both Iraq and Afghanistan. He co-founded the organization when he realized the dire need for more services.
A lot of the veterans that come to us are in a time of desperation in their life. They often have suicidal ideation as a result of their chronic post-traumatic stress disorder, which is directly connected to their service in combat overseas. They have to figure everything out on their own and often get discouraged in doing so because it's a huge bureaucratic process.
Popov says one of the most meaningful parts of the work the group does is its missions overseas, where it pairs veterans with humanitarian efforts in the countries they have previously served.
One of the primary sources of chronic post-traumatic stress that's related to combat involves what's called collateral damage, which is generally the accidental killing of women and children. They get this sense of closure through atonement by, there's nothing you can do about the memories of war, there's nothing you can do about the kids that died years past, but there is something that you can do for this kid right now who's suffering from the same war and the same trauma and the same decimated infrastructure that we left behind.
Popov says helping others has changed his life for the better. Bill Vallely agrees. He now volunteers with a group where he runs an auto body and collision course for the veterans.
Giving them employment and a sense of meaning and belonging makes all the difference in the world. So that in itself is healing for me.
Now, Veterans Rebuilding Life, they are run on donations, and you can go to pix11.com and learn how to donate to that group. And addressing the epidemic of traumatic brain injuries in the military, that is the goal of a new bill that would help veterans injured from exposure to blast waves. Combat veterans increasingly being found to have brain damage that's similar to football players who suffer multiple concussions. The Wounded Warrior Project says a third of veterans report some kind of brain injury while in service. Now, the aim of the new bill is to fund blast wave research, improve treatment, and reduce exposure.
Deal with dangerous and lethal equipment all the time, but it can be done safely if we understand the impacts of that, and that's what this act will do. So we're so very thankful that you're doing it.
Senator Kirsten Gillibrand co-sponsored that legislation. It was introduced in both the House and Senate this year and referred to each chamber's Committee of Armed Services. All right, veteran homelessness. It is on the decline at the national level, but it does remain a big issue. One group planning a new project in our area that won't only provide a home for veterans, it'll also provide support for those who feel forgotten and alone.
We will not let any veteran sleep in a street in America. It is not right, and we will never let it happen.
A passionate Frank Siller vows his nonprofit Tunnel to Towers Foundation will eradicate homelessness among U.S. veterans. Their latest effort on Long Island. This rundown and shuttered former motel in Island Park has been sitting empty for more than a decade. It will soon be demolished. Construction will start, and when it's finished, it'll look like this, a beautiful veterans village already built by Tunnel to Towers in Houston, Texas. The 42 units will be modern and clean and get 42 veterans off the street.
Well, this thing for the homeless vets, it's a godsend, and it's great that they're doing it, and you gotta do the right thing.
The new facility, to be completed by 2026, will offer a lot more than housing. It will also feature on-site support services for the veterans to get them healthy and integrated back into society.
Giving them a home, giving them a roof is but the first step. We have to make sure that they have access to the health care, the mental health, the addiction counseling, the job training that these men and women not only need but deserve.
Once homeless vets are back on their feet and working, the agreement is they will never have to pay more than 30% of their income to keep their homes.
All right, coming up, the story of a New Jersey woman who's led America's first female soldiers overseas back during World War I. Also ahead, the relaxation technique that is helping veterans control the mental wounds that linger after war. The lingering wounds of war impact tens of thousands of veterans who return from combat. But there is a simple technique for deep relaxation proving to be an effective therapy that brings relief in more ways than one. Marvin Scott has the story.
From the ravages of war to the peaceful tranquility of meditation, these military veterans are practicing a mental technique that's enabling them to rid their minds of negative images of combat and other scenarios. Transcendental meditation is a non-religious practice that involves sitting silently with eyes closed for 20 minutes twice a day.
It allows the mind to settle down to a very deep level of rest, to transcend the most active level of thought, to experience calmer, quieter, more peaceful levels of mental activity.
An estimated 1 million veterans suffer from post-traumatic stress. A quarter of them are veterans from the Vietnam War. The nonprofit David Lynch Foundation Center for Resilience, in partnership with Operation Warrior Shield, has instructed thousands of veterans in TM.
So I've taught veterans from Vietnam War era that have been going to therapy, that have been taking all kinds of medication, and yet they're still experiencing symptoms from their experience in military service. And when they learn transcendental meditation, is so simple and natural that they're able to experience relief from it.
It's helped me to relax and also keep my blood pressure down.
William Alvarez received the Purple Heart for his Army service in Vietnam. TM helped rid him of the demons in his mind.
I'm more relaxed. It doesn't shoot up and get control of me. I can control it.
How was that for everybody?
It's just a very peaceful feeling when you are actually practicing. It's not what you're experiencing while you're in it, but it's what you get out of it from actually doing it consistently.
Eugene Thomas is a combat veteran of Desert Storm in Iraq. The war took its toll on him.
My anger was out of control.
He turned to the David Lynch Foundation for help and began the meditation sessions.
I also am very passionate. It allowed me to separate and put the energy that needed to go into those things that I'm passionate about directly there, and then remove the energy from those things that I was giving anger to.
Army veteran Lisa Bipa is Director of Veterans Affairs at City University. Her trauma was not war-related, but the death of her 20-year-old daughter.
After a while, it was months of not sleeping, not eating properly. No matter what I did, trying to exercise, eat right, it never worked. But bringing TM into the balance helped save my life.
The results are really extraordinary. Within a few days, I'll often hear them saying to me, you know, I haven't slept through the night in 7 years, and now I'm sleeping. And you know, when we hear that, then we know we're making a difference.
Now, sadly, more than 6,500 veterans die each year by suicide, but there is help if you need it. You can reach the Veterans Crisis Line simply by calling 988 and pressing 1. You can also text 838-255. And in New York, in non-emergency situations, you can call this number here for assistance and to learn about benefits and services you might be eligible for. All the advisors, they have veterans themselves. All right, they dedicated their lives to dangerous frontline combat during World War I. More than a century later, these women are finally getting the heroic recognition they deserve. Plus,
a service dog is saving the life of a U.S. Army veteran. I'm Katie Corrado with the heartwarming story about man's best friend coming up.
a female war hero from New Jersey finally getting the recognition she deserves more than a century after she risked her life for her country. McGee Hickey has the story of Grace Banker, leader of the Hello Girls.
Grace Banker is an American war hero you have probably never heard of. At the age of 25, this Passaic, New Jersey native led America's first female soldiers overseas in World War I. They were popularly known as Hello Girls, and they provided vital communications, including dangerous frontline combat support in France. But when they returned home to the United States, more than 200 Hello Girls, including their leader, Grace Banker, were denied recognition as veterans because of Army regulations.
After the war, they kind of thought the women, well, you know, you got paid, right? You wore the uniform, it was a great adventure, but you weren't really in the Army. Yes, we were. And that's why it took so long, is they were up against the Army policy at the time was that only men could serve.
Grace Banker's granddaughter joined military and veteran representatives in a moving ceremony at Greenwood Cemetery. 64 years after Banker's death in 1960, a special memorial was dedicated at her gravesite. It included a veteran medallion, a distinction only available to those who have served in the military.
This is an amazing experience for me and my family, recognizing my grandmother, who, along with the other Hello Girls, her story was lost and forgotten over time.
All of the things that we have today could come back down to those few women.
In the last decade, the Hello Girls are finally getting recognition for risking their lives to help end World War I. A documentary made about their unrecognized heroism, and the Hello Girls, a new American musical featuring one of the stars singing a song called Making History at Banker's gravesite. In a way, we all are making history. There's been a years-long campaign to get a Congressional Gold Medal honoring the World War I female telephone operators known as the Hello Girls. And now, finally, after decades and decades of this campaign, it looks like it's about to happen.
Less than 200 people have ever gotten that medal. George Washington was the first. So they're in some very elite company.
She was a leader, and she did it because she felt it was the right thing to do for her country.
And now her country feels it's the right thing to do to acknowledge her service.
What a story. All right, well, after years of struggling to adjust to civilian life, a New Jersey veteran finding instant comfort with a dog named Scotty. How he brings a sense of safety to a Purple Heart recipient. Plus.
I'm Marvin Scott at the Intrepid Museum, where a workhorse of World War II is being prepared for an exhibit that will highlight its extraordinary history. I'll have that story coming up.
There's a special bond between people and their pets, and for some, it's life-saving. That's the case for a Purple Heart recipient in Wall Township, New Jersey, who says his service dog never leaves his side. Katie Corrado has a heartwarming story.
April 13th of 2006, I was leading patrol back from a mission outside of Western Baghdad.
It would be easy enough to explain why combat veteran James Brereton finds comfort in his service dog.
And an improvised explosive device hit the side of my vehicle.
But Scotty shows why better than we can explain it.
It's instant comfort. And it's a reset. Yeah. So yeah, he's helped me reset. And it's as simple as that. That's what they do. Okay.
Scotty entered James's life last year, matched by the group Canines for Warriors.
Okay. They're training a dog, they're matching the dog's personality for what that veteran asks for, desires, needs, disabilities.
James found the group after struggling for years to readjust to civilian life. The military was all he knew. He joined straight out of high school in the 80s and retired in 2013 after serving multiple tours in Iraq and Afghanistan.
We identified as soldiers. Now it's that identity. Once it's taken away, once that uniform comes off, for a lot of us, it's a profound sense of loss.
James found hope and help through his first service dog, Bernie.
He really did the hard work. He got me through a lot of tough times, got me to that end where I finally felt, I'm at home. I could move forward. I've closed that chapter of my life. And now I have Scotty to help me maintain that.
And Scotty is there every step of the way, whether it's relaxing on the couch, playing in the yard, or watching Dad make a sandwich. Scotty never leaves James's side. And it might not seem like much, but a gentle tap at the grocery store can go a long way to bring a sense of comfort and safety back into James's life.
If anybody approaches, he'll lean into me, he'll bump his head against my hand to let me know that somebody's coming up that I can't see. It's just that sense of security, somebody's watching my back.
It's a sense of comfort and safety that only man's best friend can provide.
Everywhere we go, he's with me. So wherever we go, people know, there's James and Scotty.
All right, a relic of World War II will soon be on display at the Intrepid Museum. Needs a little repair work first, though. A deeper look at the history of this iconic aircraft next. legendary piece of aviation history getting some TLC at the Intrepid Museum. The iconic aircraft is one of only a few in existence. Here is Marvin Scott.
She was the forerunner of modern-day jet fighters. The Vought F-4U Corsair was one of the best naval fighters of World War II. A legend of aerial combat, the Corsair is now a historic artifact of war. One of them landing in a hangar aboard the Intrepid Museum, where it's now being restored for an exhibition.
This particular airplane, it took a lot of cleaning, basically. It's been hanging up in a museum for 4, possibly 5 decades, and it was just absolutely filthy. We've discovered a few things that did not receive attention before. One of the things we need to repair is that these 3 fairings were missing. These go over the gun barrels, and they're relatively easy to replicate.
Designed for carrier operations, the Corsairs had to overcome early challenges before being recognized as one of the most effective fighter bombers of its time.
The Corsair was absolutely integral to winning World War II. It was used in the Pacific Theater mostly. And something that was very different about this aircraft was the fact that it had something called an inverted gull wing, which made space for the very large propeller. The gull wing also made this extremely maneuverable and very, very fast. It was the fastest fighter plane at the time.
He's coming in too fast. Oh! Holy God, he made it.
One of Intrepid's pilots, Alfred Lurch, became an ace in a day by shooting down 7 enemy aircraft when he only needed to shoot down 5 to become an ace. He earned the Navy Cross for all of his work.
They can scrub away the old paint, but they can't wipe away the legacy of this relic of war that racked up more than 2,100 victories in aerial combat and dropped almost 16,000 tons of bombs on the enemy.
Now, the Corsair will go on display at the Intrepid next March. We thank you for watching Veterans Voices. To all of our veterans and current service members of the military, we thank you for your service. I'm John Muller. Have a good night.